Hello, hello, and welcome to this edition of the Law Firm Blueprint. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Ruane, and with me, as always, is my man, Seth Price, down there in the Price Benowitz remote headquarters. Seth, we've been doing this show for a long time. We started it during COVID. I was doing it in my bedroom. Now I'm doing it from my office. You're upgraded your place. Now you're in a new house, basically. Well, not new now, but new since COVID. I'm just thinking, man, we've been at this for a long time. How you doing this week?
I'm doing well. We got just came off college reunion. We got son's graduation tomorrow, so lots of good stuff going on.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah, we're gearing up for a couple weeks from now. We're on a plane for 3 weeks in Spain, Italy, and France. And I just found out that the house that we're staying in, it's my father-in-law's childhood home. No AC. That's not that big of a deal. It's up in the Basque area. There'll be a cool breeze. No Wi-Fi, no TV.
Well, TV, when was the last time you watched TV? But the Wi-Fi, as my kids would say, the Wi-Fi, no Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Now, can you bring a hotspot?
I'm sure I can. I don't think I'm going to. I'm going to go old school style. I mean, there's bars in the there's nothing in the town that he lives in.
She says you're going to have access.
Well, I mean, I have my cell phone. I could always hotspot through that if I need to. But yeah, there's
no. If you have international, then you're fine. Meaning, better yet for the kids. I mean, look, for me, when the kids don't have connection on vacation, to me that's better. On the cruises, I don't pay for them to have Wi-Fi. Like I want them to be offline, meaning intentionally. Like the story has not been told, but the amount of anxiety created, and I'm convinced the short form video is a substantial part of it, is pretty ugly. And those companies know how to. I mean, the Roblox lawsuit's going. There's no doubt that they're doing evil stuff to keep us addicted online.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Especially for the two of us with our ADD. I mean, the dopamine, you get into it. Next thing you know, you're sitting and staring at 2 hours worth of videos. I can only imagine on an a brain that has not fully developed yet, how much they do it. But the town's got like 6 bars, 8 bars, one little store, a town of 300 people. It's halfway between Bilbao and San Sebastian, so there's going to be great food. And I'm just looking to sort of relax, maybe read some magazines that I'm going to download to my iPad and
catch up on my new book.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I'll do. What a great segue, folks! If you haven't gotten it yet. Local SEO by Seth and is Dave Brenton, one of the authors of it.
Partook on it, yeah.
Is now available online at Amazon. I saw it there. If you get it and then bring it to a conference that you see Seth at, I'm sure he will sign it for you. And that way you'll have a collector's edition. I don't know if you do what I do. Maybe you'll do that since you're getting to an airport on Friday. I always bring a copy of one of my books with me, and I'll walk into the bookstore at the airport and I'll put it in the business book section and I'll take a picture with it saying, found my book at, Dulles Airport, which I found it because I put it there. But it's a good social media post, if nothing else. And you get people who are like, oh, I got to pick up that book. I got to check it out. But it's a lot of fun to do. So you may want to do that this weekend and tag me.
I love it. I was Jay Ruane. But look, we talk about marketing and what's going on. We talk a lot about operation on the show. We talk about marketing, but I've seen some disturbing trends that I think are going to come home to roost. Look, everything's gotten more expensive, right? We see gas going up, inflation, yada yada.
It's $20 for a pound of turkey at the supermarket.
Well, just a cheesesteak. That was my barometer from college, back for a reunion in Philly. What was a 4, 5, 6, maybe, it goes up to 8 over the years, $16 for the new cheesesteak place. Ironically, the cheesesteak stores around UPenn, gone. I had to go over to Drexel to find a real cheesesteak store. And it's, it's a sign of the times. The kids are eating healthier.
Real estate can't support it?
I think it's partially the eating habits of the kids who can afford $90,000 a year. Look, my kids yell at me for having oat milk instead of almond milk because it's too heavy carbs. I mean, they are well aware of what's going into their body. And I think the stuff that we did, which was the late night Eggle, which was bagel with cheese and eggs and breakfast meats galore on a greasy grill, that's long gone. That the smoothie stores and the sweet greens and chopped have invaded. So in a good way. But anyway, we digress. Everything's more expensive. I am concerned. It has been not PPC, which used to be the gold standard. You turn a faucet off and on, not always viable in all markets. LSA, which used to be like print money, get as many as you could, in some markets, no longer as sweet as it once was, particularly outside of the plaintiff's world. Usually okay there, but I have real concerns for criminal practice, right? Average fee per case. Many law firms out there, if you took your criminal mastermind, my gut is $5K might be the over-under.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right.
A lot of $1,500 high speedings, $2,500, $3,500, and the number of felonies is a fraction of the number of misdemeanors at $5K per average case. I mean, I know we have to target what you're targeting, but the idea that PPC could be at $3K a case, you're out of business. You can't be doing that. And so I would implore anybody who's watching, who's in the criminal, anybody should be doing this, right? Across the board, criminal, non-criminal, but specifically criminal, but family, trusted. If you aren't, I used to be like, yeah, here's some money for PPC. I'm sure it's fine. Right now, I'm pretty sure it's not. The question is, what is? That's how much it's changed. That if you are not on it and allocating, they're saying in marketing, one half's working, you don't know which half. You have the ability to dig into this. And that if you're not tying your intake into your marketing, you're definitely leaving money on the table or putting yourself underwater.
So what's the solution to this? Is it to go to other forms of traditional marketing? Is it to throw up billboards, which, at least in my market, every billboard is a PI lawyer, so their prices must be through the roof. Or do you do non-traditional digital like YouTube pre-roll ads, which I am a huge proponent of for the last couple of years? I don't see a lot of lawyers doing that.
Whatever works is great.
Maybe you should do some analog marketing, get away from, all this stuff. Well, the question is, my book, analog marketing in a
that's
digital
great.
world.
The question, could you have your practice with just analog? You'd be up to 150.
No, I wouldn't, but I could. I could.
But that's my point. Some of these things that are there are not going to deliver at the volume to sustain the Jay Ruane or Seth Price criminal business model. I am seeing.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this then. I'm going to pivot now. I'm going to ask you. Seth Price graduates law school in 2026. He says to David, "Let's start a firm." David says, "I want to do criminal," and you're like, "Yeah, that sounds good to me. I want to do that too." Where do you go first? What do you do?
I would argue right now you don't. That's the level I'm at.
You're that convinced it's that bad. You don't launch
solo. That right now that the barrier to entry for organic is significant.
Right.
That you can do it. You can open an office. You can get your reviews. You can do that. But that gets you X. But that as it's getting throttled, that PPC is usually what gets you over the hump.
Right.
And again, with all due respect to the J book, it's not getting you the volume you need for a multi-associate practice.
Right, but I'm saying you're starting practice now. You're not
understood.
Year one.
Understood. So Jay's model could get somebody somewhat occupied.
Well, let me ask you this: when did you and David hire your first associate?
Like we were shot out of the cannon. But we had a law clerk. Within 2 weeks, they were an associate. Hired another law clerk. Within another 2 weeks, they were an associate. But it was a different point in time where you threw stuff out. Now, look, digital still works. But what I'm saying is what scares me about criminal specifically is that right now, unless something changes, paid is not the answer to get you, like getting cost-effective paid where you want to scale. I don't see that as viable right now.
What about
again,
what about
meaning
workers' compensation? Because I know, at least in my state, comp only takes 20%, and they're competing with huge PI shops. If you were a comp lawyer today, would you just say, "Look, I'm not going to do any advertising
no, no, no,
digitally.
no.
I have a
Look,
website, and I'm going to start to go to every big, massive advertising PI lawyer and say, send me your comp cases, and I'll kick you back to you."
that's always a good answer if you can get those relationships.
Right,
Yes.
but how do you make them?
No. But look. So that's where I would take Jay's book. I mean, if Jay was coming out today with who the Jay's superpower, yeah, you could have an FU comp practice, being Jay, going to every trial lawyer conference, get everybody to love you. Yes, no doubt. But what I'm saying is, when I see something where, if you look at you just talked about turkey, $20 a pound.
Yeah.
When you started this, 25 years ago?
Now
No, when you transitioned.
I'm 25 years at Ruane Attorneys.
Okay. What was turkey 25 years ago?
Probably $3.50 a pound.
Right. And what was the median criminal case? 4K?
Yeah, probably 3,500 4K. I can remember handling drug dealer cases, telling them $2,500 or $4,500. If the guy had a lot of weight on him, it'd be $5,000 if he was looking at.
But it's more now. But the average, when you take the volume of that stuff, it hasn't gone up with the rest of inflation in criminal. It just hasn't. Billable hours in family went from 250, 300 to 400 to 600 on average for most lawyers out there, right? Depending on the market. Right. Again, some are still down there at the $300, $400 an hour, right? But the idea that criminal specifically, when I got in 20 years ago, a DUI was around 5K. It hasn't gone up the same way. And so the cost of media, whereas the clicks were 50 cents. And so
I remember my first click was 2 cents. I still look back and see.
So I think you're throttled where, yes, organic gets you the cases it gets, but we just had a situation in South Carolina where Google fucked with the algorithm for 2 weeks. Gone. You're going to yell at your SEO. Google started showing people at a 3.5 rating. It's not going to last, but it sucks. So I think that it's some of it is, and that's where, I love networking. Right?
I know.
Right? I love it. I enjoy it too. Maybe a little bit less as I get older, and but I still. I love it at the higher level. But I still remember going to BNI groups, and I don't care. Take Jay's book, go to the BNI group. If you're going to a BNI group, you need a widget that everybody needs and makes money, whether it be some form of insurance, some sort of service that is replicable. That people.
If you're a trusted estates lawyer, that can turn into something.
It could. I think there's a different conversation we talk about afterwards, but take that out for a second, because it sounds like a panacea. I get my issues there too. Look, I just heard one person say bankruptcy people are completely out, a part of the economy. We still are propped up, yada, yada. But on criminal, we haven't seen the stuff go up, and the cost of clicks have gone from 50 cents to $100 in some cases.
Right.
It's great then.
And here's one of the biggest challenges with criminal. And for all of you who are watching or listening and you don't practice criminal law, what you have to realize that when Seth and I and his partner David started out in this area of criminal, there was a lot of money in being a criminal. I mean, they were moving serious weight on drugs.
There was a velocity of cash running through it.
Just a ton of money. I mean, I can remember back in the day, guys walking in with little shopping bags with cash and counting it out on my conference.
The IRS has really done a decent job of cracking down on that.
Well, I mean, think about it. I used to get gambling cases from some of the local OC guys when their places got raided. Gambling's now legal. Marijuana is legal in a lot of states, and so that took away a lot more people, instead of buying their heroin or their cocaine, started getting opioids from, and that really destroyed that market in terms of it. Now, there are people out there who are still buying fentanyl and stuff because they can't get as high as they want off the pills. But I'll tell you, the government has taken away a significant amount of the illicit activities that used to fund criminal defense. And I see guys that I used to rep I talked to one guy. I ran into him at a pizzeria, and we just started shooting the shit. I represented him for years. He had an unlicensed pharmaceutical business. Let's call it that. He picked up a gun case, and he had to do some time. And it was funny. I was chatting with him, and he said, "I said, so what are you doing now?" And he goes, "Oh, he's like, I'm still giving the white people in the suburbs what they want." And I was like, What are you talking about?" And he goes, "I got 5 Amazon delivery trucks, and we run Amazon deliveries." He's like, "And so I got 4 guys who work for me, and we pile stuff up and we make deliveries." And I said, he's become legit, and he's like, "I'm making as much money as I was back then with a lot less risk." And I'm
Well,
very
that's
happy.
the point. Right, right. You do, every X years you'll get arrested and have to spend money on a lawyer and spend time away. So, I'm seeing, on the criminal side, real squeeze. Family wealth has increased. There's more to fight over. There are people willing to spend it. I don't think it's been hit as hard as others.
I would agree with that.
You see on the PI side, first you see Morgan, Top Dog, people like that coming in nationally. But now you're seeing, we'll have shows, hopefully with Chad Dudley on soon, talking about what he's doing. The amount of private equity about to hit the PI market is dramatic. And when they come in, and prices of these leads and these cases are not going down, they're only going up. So I'm watching this confluence, and I think that, look, yes, offline marketing, always a differentiator, get it, but know that if somebody's thinking today, I think you got to look at what is the cost delivering the product, something we never thought about back in the day, and what is the price to get something in the door. And then if you're there are areas I've seen a lot of people pivot in immigration where digital works, but social works particularly well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
People are thinking about this for months, if not years, building that online relationship. God bless. Criminal, you don't have that time. I know the short form works, but you're essentially back to like building a brand. And you are probably one of the few people that could take that advice. The random solo with 1 or 2 people. What are the odds you're in the right place with the right time? It's not nothing.
Well, and here's one of the things that has been, we started January 1st. I think it was January 1st, 2025. Although I have to look at my notes. It may have been 21st, 2024. We staffed weekend intake. Like full time.
You squeezed more juice out of the orange.
8 to 8, Saturdays and Sundays. We have our intake closers working. And some of them only work 4 days a week, and they get a 3-day weekend, but their 3-day weekend is, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or whatever it is. We found a way to incentivize them, to not pay them more, but make it work. And every weekend we close more and more business.
That was when I started.
And I'm talking to other lawyers, and they're saying, "Jay, I don't know what's happening. Monday morning we used to get 3 or 4 calls, and now we don't get any." I'm like, "Yeah, because my people are closing them on Saturday at 2:00." And because I think now people want much more immediacy. They don't want to book an appointment, 3 days away. They just want to solve the problem and move on with their lives. What are your thoughts about weekend intake?
Well, I mean, look, I think it's a bigger intake in general, right? And that it's amazing. It's major part of operation. It's the least sexy. I've talked to you about like what business model works there. There are 2 or 3 people as consultants out there. Falkowitz talks from stage on it, but the number of firms with broken intake. And look, who are we to speak? At any given moment, you're like, oh my God, these 2 people suck. And it's humans. I know we may be moving more towards AI, but until it's fully there, we are, 300 law firms at BluShark. It is shocking the stuff that we see. The firms that make money are the ones that are staffing. They're doing nights. They're doing weekends. They're figuring it out. It's competition. And if these private equity guys are coming in, they're going to they know how to operate.
Right.
The average lawyer is like, at best, a practitioner. Hopefully they know how to market. But the odds of them having the trifecta of intake, marketing, and substance, very, very, very remote. So, again, as these things come, and as I sort of raise the flag about some of these areas, it's competitive with intake right. If you don't have it right, that's where you don't have a shot.
Well, I wonder, if we had the ability to look into a crystal ball and see who's going to rise and who's going to fall in the next 5 years with the private equity coming in. I think it comes down to private equity, the behemoths out there are going to invest more and more into digital marketing, and they're going to take over the airwaves and the billboards and the digital things. And the other ones that are going to be successful are going to be those, independents, the solos, or the, 2 or 3 person shop who are really, really ingrained in their community. Really,
the person where Jay's book will matter. You're not Jay's book doesn't help you with 50 lawyers.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. You can't feed that. But if you're like,
it doesn't really even help my firm. It helps me. It helps my partner Teresa, because these are all the things that we've talked about and done. But even with my associates, I've run them through the training and all that stuff, and they're like, "Yeah, but I don't have time. I'm working cases."
And frankly, if you take the interview, you shouldn't want them doing it.
Right.
But then when stuff gets slow, and it's more so. It's pick your poison. You can only do so many haircuts a month. That said,
I got somebody for intake from a haircut last Friday. I got a nice shape up here. I went to go see my friend Nick, and Nick said, "Hey, I know somebody who's looking for a job. She's working in a deli, but she's great. She can talk to anybody."
Okay, but I'm going to call bullshit BS in that this is the 6-month rule. You got the person. When the person craps out, hopefully they don't.
God will announce if you're live on the show.
But that said, you're telling me that the person you got was a deli person recommended by the haircut. Had you instead gone to a networking group and met somebody who was college educated, not working in a deli, was in sales at the Verizon store, would that have been a better mix? So and that's part of it. It's like, I joined a group. Let me land the plane with this, because this does go back to the book and where I want to be. I joined a group. There's a national networking group. It's about 1/3 lawyers and 2/3, from our point of view, hamburger helper, in the sense that it's non-lawyers, some of which are lawyer adjacent, like accountants, and some are pretty adjacent, just with a check for the organization, like a real estate agent, where doesn't really do me a lot of good. And I'm having that realization that if you're not a solo, can you justify the time that their program wishes you to provide? It's 2 hours once a month in a meeting. Then you're meeting 3 people for lunch once a month they're random from your group. And I'm sitting there saying this publicly now, and said, which is, I don't get it. It's one thing if you're like in a lawyer only group and you're like, every person there could give a referral. But the odds, now there are groups like BNI, using that as an example. I still don't think it's good for criminal.
I agree. I think it's terrible. And it's funny. Somebody posted that in like a Facebook group, and they're like, "You should join a BNI." And I was like, and I had to respond. I said, "Don't go to BNI if you're a criminal defense lawyer. That's
just not enough. Not enough people.
People who are in BNI are not going to get arrested for the most part.
Right. But those people in those groups, for the most part, are amazing connectors. They go there to these meetings. They're religious. They go out there. When they hear something, lawyer, get it to like there. And if you have something where enough people need it, you measure trust in estates, perhaps injury, perhaps. When there's enough of a cadence, great. Because with the cost of PI cases in many markets, $3,000-$4,000 a case, if you're a smaller firm, you could justify your time that if you were to get a couple cases a year from it, fine. But if you're in the criminal defense space where the margin is X and the average fee is 50, that means your profit is $1,250 per case, and you get 2 cases a year. Can you justify your time?
Is it worth the squeeze?
Right. So I'm sitting here really struggling about where you place your time. And I think that when you read a book like yours, it's figuring out, not in a vacuum, because every idea is a good idea, but what is the idea that is most likely to hit for what you're doing? You like to try stuff, and that's great, but time is money, and where are you going to take that allocation of time? So I've been struggling with this personally, which is, I have all these SKUs that I can theoretically hit, but am I going to spend the time to get close enough to people who are not the super connectors of a BNI, but are colleagues, professionals? It's nice, but where do you go? Where do you place your resources in the form of time? Maybe we'll hit that on the next show, because to me, I am seeing the squeeze on paid digital in a way that I haven't before. It's not that it can't be done, but it is more and more challenging. The turkey is $20 a pound, and you don't want to be throwing any of that out that the kids decide they don't want turkey this week and it's sitting in the fridge.
Well, that's what happens with my kids. They love something one week, and then the next week, oh my God, I can't believe that you would ever ask me to eat a turkey sandwich.
And the networking version of that is you go somewhere, you have a great hit, and you spend the next 3 years sitting somewhere, and it's not like, hey, give it.
It's like, it's like hitting your number in roulette the first time you put money down, and then you're chasing that high for the next 4 hours as you give it all back.
And look, you've done some amazing stuff when you had a booth at that larger conference. Those things, impactful. And you've also done something which I have not done, which said you hold a flag and say, I do this one thing and I do it well. And that's the other piece. Whereas Ken will add that, to this question, which is going to be, multi-flag versus single flag.
One of the things that I've done, I'll put this out there as an idea, is, I've noticed at conferences, I'll take a look at, DUI conferences, criminal conferences, that type of thing, and I'll find interesting speakers and interesting presentations, and I will reach out to the people after they've given their presentation and say, hey, you put a lot of work into this. They had you at the National Criminal Defense Lawyers, or DUI DLA, or something like that. You want to give this presentation again? And I'll bring them in by Zoom. I'll let them do the presentation, and I'll curate the audience. So it'll be my referral partners. It'll be, and I'm usually getting the speaker. I may offer to pay them or get a donation to their charity of choice. Oftentimes they just say, don't worry about it, I'm happy to do it. But it's a great way to build that network without leaving your desk.
Well, it is. Look, everything else, it needs a team to put it together if it's done right. And, it's like, lots of great ideas. Some of them worked for a while. Mario had that amazing, Mario Godoy, friend of the show, did an amazing lunch, but didn't keep it going. I give the lawman Umansky flack because he runs a mastermind. Nothing wrong with him.
I think it was like last week.
Right. And I went to one prior one, and I love him, and his stuff is amazing. It's a good mastermind. People who got great value out of it. Is it the best value for lawman? Is he getting the ROI? He likes it.
I think, honestly, knowing Bill internally and what he values and what he wants to be his legacy, he's getting more value out of that than bringing in $100,000 fee out of it.
Well, no, it is a passion play.
Right, but then there's something to be said for passion, and there's something to be said for, look, I don't need to be a billionaire. I'm comfortable where I am, and I'd rather have free time. I could eliminate $500,000 worth of lawyer salaries if I took a caseload at this point and put that $500,000.
No, but I'm not going there. That's a different issue. Good issue, and it's on the same continuum. But what I'd say is, if you had an honest conversation with yourself and said, look, I'm not maximizing this. If he went to a family law conference and got on stage with his charisma, how much better ROI would it be than having his competitors in a mastermind? Nothing wrong with it. It's good. Every mastermind I go to, good or bad, I get something out of it. The people there love him. He's built raving fans. Nothing bad. But the question is, just like I'm going to a networking event with a bunch of people who are not like random people. It's always like, we talk, if you do an event, you get a bunch of emails from people. That's great. What's the difference between going to a networking event that's non-targeted as a criminal defense lawyer and walking down the street and talking to 20 random people for 5 minutes each? Going to a Chipotle and going table to table. How much different of an impact would it be? Now, the BNI, when you get to ones where they're super connectors, I think there's much more value because they are out there hustling for you. But when it's a colleague type environment, it's tough. You get stuff. It's not everybody gets referrals in there. There's definitely referrals. That's not the point. But the ROI on time for it is my question.
Boy, well, I'd love to hear your answer to that question, folks. So if you are listening, please be sure to leave a comment down below in the comment section and let us know what you think about this, because this is the type of thing that we are always discussing. We are always trying to figure out what the right thing to do is. Because I got to tell you, Seth, when I opened my firm, September 1st, 2001. It was a different time. We marketed different. We processed our cases differently, and in 2008, when the economy collapsed, mine didn't. I was doing criminal defense. But then COVID hit. Then we're here now with this AI thing. Every couple of years, there's a massive change in the industry, and I'm wondering how I can be prepared for the next one. I think it's by being moving, right? By constantly thinking, changing,
Correct.
and making sure.
Let's end with a silver lining, which is the fundamentals of SEO are working. They may be down slightly, but the AI next gen is developing it based on similar practices. So what is scary is we are we like certainty. When there's certainty, we're going up on that straight line. It is definitely frenetic. And what I think concerns me the most is Google's money grab in it, and how much they're going to squeeze the organic. And is there a viable path in certain practice areas for that? That's the part that I'm sort of, focused on right now and looking at real seriously.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, with LSAs, then pay-per-click, then maps, then organic, I might spend my money on hiring somebody to help get me reviews, so I'm ranking always on the map pack. And go LSAs, map pack, and just give up on the pay-per-click.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, they're in criminal. I'm curious I know you have some rural areas. Take those out. Next week, I want you to come back with what is your cost per case in the non-rural areas that you're hitting.
All right. I'll have to get somebody to do that because I don't do that type of thing. But
or perhaps you'll have an agent do it for you.
I will. You know what? Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll just have my Claude project started up. In fact, I'm gonna do that right now. I got a couple more hours before the end of the day, so I'm gonna do that, work on that, so I have the answer for you next week. So, folks, that's gonna do it for us this week here on the Law Firm Blueprint. Of course, you can take us anywhere you want to go on the go by subscribing to the Law Firm Blueprint podcast. Be sure to give us a 5-star review if you do that, and you can check us out live on LinkedIn, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, as well as live in our Facebook group, The Law Firm Blueprint. Be sure to become a member because it's a fun place to hang. That's going to do it for us. I'm Jay Brewing. He is Seth Price. Last words, anything?
No. You know what? I got one thing for you to add to your agent. I want you to add in, you're spending money on the social, add in your pre-rolls to that piece, because part of what's getting that is brand. So you may have that secret sauce of combining it. I'm curious. Let's make sure that's in the mix.
I mean, I'm in a state of 3 million people, and last year we did 30 million pre-roll ads. I don't even want to know how much that cost me, but it was worth it.
Well, let's find out. Let's see how worth it is.
A lot more name searches showing up in our analytics, which is.
And are those name searches hitting revenue?
Well, we're going to find out. All right, brother. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.